Hello, and welcome to Weakness Weakness. This is Adrian here. It's day 25, the day of my first quarterly weigh-in and all my stats to be presented to you. I apologize, it's a day late. However, I recorded with no audio, so I had to re-record this morning. But let me go over everything I had to present you, and hopefully this will show you how the progress is going and give you a reference to say, yeah, he's actually losing weight and that what I'm saying is actually true. This first section here is actually presented from my scale, and then we'll go into more of the detail regarding the MacroFactor app after we go over these details. So as you can see on the left hand side here, my first day I was at 250.1, started this whole event, pounds, and today, well, yesterday morning, but today, day 25, we're at 232.5. So I did gain a little bit of weight from the previous day. However, I am officially at 17.6 pounds down if you subtract those two numbers. You can see that my starting BMI was at 41.7 and that I'm now at 38.7. Still very obese, however, I am working on it. You can also see that my body fat went from 45.3 down to 40.7. I'm hoping to get into those 30s so that I can then push for the 35s, so that I can then push for the 30s, so that I can push for the 20s, to get in the high 20s and get into the lower 20s and continue on my progress. You can also see that my visceral fat was at 23 when I first started, and I'm now at 20. Visceral fat is that they used to call it brown fat, I think, or it's the really bad fat, the fat that messes with your organs and gets in the way of things and can alter the way your body works. Then I had 38.5% subcutaneous fat, and now I have 35.7 or 34.7. Subcutaneous fat is the basic fat, the fat that you see that's right underneath the skin. So the difference between the two fats is subcutaneous fat is the fat that's right below your skin. It's on top of the muscle. It's not inside the muscle or in the organs, or it doesn't get in the way of your body's functions as much. It just kind of lays on top of the muscles. It's more of the visual. Then you can see that at least with the scale, was calling my age, was 56. I have now dropped to 55. Woo! I'm reversing time. Then you can kind of get a capture of my heart rate. My heart rate is still moderately high. However, my resting average rate has gone from about 90 something down to 74. So I am clearly increasing it and improving it. However, it's not in the optimal range yet. This is going to take time, and I'm going to continue on that path. You can also see that my body water went from 39.4, manageable, but probably not really good, to now 42.7. This means I'm holding more water, I'm keeping more water. It's probably because my muscles are staying full with the creatine, also because I'm maybe possibly gaining muscle, and the really good benefits of having more water in your body, at least that I've always been told and that I've understood, is more water out, more toxins out. Additionally, fat cells are really, really attracted to water. They absorb water. So just like with anything, if you were to take a chicken stock and pour water into it, or take a soda and you pour water into it, what happens? You're diluting it. It disperses and separates that, making it even less as potent as it is. So if I can, through filtration and through water and keep it in, basically break down fat and continue to slowly process it through the natural system, I should be able to overtake that and allow that water to clean out my system. So that's good that I'm keeping more water now. Also, you'll see that my skeletal muscles have increased from 35.2 to now 38.2. Skeletal muscles are specifically the muscles that are attached to the ligaments and to your bones. Then my bone mass, I still find this one really funny that I've actually gained a point in bone mass. I think that's probably just a scale being unable to determine the exact at the time of my initial scale into my current scale. Uh, Me growing bone at this time would be, I would say, improbable. Um, Especially as you get older, your bones begin to deteriorate. However, if I am, that's awesome. You know, I would like to be a genetic freak. There are people out there who can still do these things, um, but just maintaining the bone density that I have is important. Then you'll also see that my protein went from 12.4% to now 13.4%. Um, that's in relation to how much protein or muscle mass is on my body. Um, and then you can also see that uh, my fat-free body weight went from 136.7 to now being 137.7. So that's saying that if I had no fat on my body, this is what my weight, including my bones, etc., should be scanning. So I am building on that track on the right way that I said I wanted to do. The funny thing I find, and this is the one thing I really need to work on here, is my BMR. It's at 2017. Now, when I started 2,125, what BMR is, it's your body's, well, to be accurate, it's the basal metabolic rate, but it's your body's natural ability to burn calories based on if you were just sitting in a vacuum or you were sitting on the chair, just watching TV, not eating anything, not taking any action, just watching, just resting for a 24-hour period. That's how many calories your body should burn. And that's, maintaining whatever bodily function it needs to do. Now, mine has gone down drastically. I think that's caused by two different things. One's in my control, and I'm going to attempt to shock my body. The two things is, first, my diet. So I'm taking in less calories, so I think my body is naturally saying, hey, you don't need as much to burn to maintain. That's one thing. Diet is probably definitely affecting it. The second thing is I've dropped 17.6 pounds of weight. So that means that's 17.6 pounds of weight that is no longer resting on my body, that my body's like, I've got to maintain that. Ooh, how much does it take to burn and keep your body going? Making sure all the organs and everything is functioning correctly. So with that weight loss, my body said, hey, I don't need this much. So I'm going to shock my system a little bit. And slowly, over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to introduce 10 pounds of ankle weights and about 8 pounds or maybe 4 pounds of wrist weights. Just something so that my neat energy, or things that when you're petting your dog, or you're just walking around, just going to grab something, when you're tapping your fingers, when you're tapping your toes, you're bouncing your knees, those little things now will start to add up because I'm adding additional weight to my body that it has to now compensate for. I'll do that until I get about 30 pounds down. Once I get about 30 pounds down, then I'll add a 40-pound weight vest to basically make sure that my rate of, energy expenditure will still maintain as if I am 250 pounds. That's kind of where my goal is right now. So, that's the starting from my scale. And here we see the MacroFactor app graphs. This isn't everything in MacroFactor, and this is just more importantly the graphs I felt were very important to share. I will go into more detail over the actual app in a lot of the little nuances, probably in a future video. For right now, I just wanted to stick to my weight loss and what it is presented as data. So on to the left here, you'll see my expenditures. you'll see that I went through this big, from the bottom to the top and then back down again. So what expenditure is how much energy you're using throughout the day. This is your basal metabolic rate, and you are included additional exercise, things that you are using more uh, calories to perform. Um, and I've noticed a downward trend. This kind of goes back to what I was discussing just a moment ago. I think a large part of this drop in expenditure energy isn't because I'm not working out. I think it's a multi-pronged issue. I think the factor that I'm being affected by most is my body weight is dropping, so that means I'm needing to expend less energy to perform any of the functions I'm doing. Secondly, I think my body is becoming better at handling the weights and the exercises I am doing, so it's utilizing less energy to perform those functions. And third, I think because I have been, although incrementally modifying and changing, um, I haven't been overexerting or pushing myself beyond my limits to expend more energy. Um, Now, I have been working out about 2 hours a day plus whatever incremental things I do, whether it be sit up or crunches, lat pull downs, jumping jacks, push ups, all those little things. Those are just added bonus to it to kind of keep me going. Um, but it's not being reflected. Again, I think that is because I'm not getting myself elevated to a point where it's continuing on. Um, but this is also being housed in the MacroFactor app, and I'm hoping to push my expenditure to be around that 3,000 range. I know I'm at 2797 as an average right now. I want to keep it that 3,000 range, or pretty close to 2,800 to 3,000 consistently throughout this journey. You can see on my insights, um, the card next to it, you can see that my expenditure has dropped by 0.7 or -7 calories, kcals. And that's 1,000 calories. Um, that's what a kcal is, sorry. Then 7 days, I've dropped by -22 kcals. And you can see that dip, it's drastically dropped. So that means less expenditure that's being removed, less calories. When we look at my overall difference of calories of what I'm expending per day, it's even less than what I was thinking it is. So if I'm in a deficit of say 1500, let's say I'm eating 1,500 calories, we'll shoot that number, and I'm burning 1,000 calories. That means I have 2,500 total calories that I'm burning throughout the day, my expenditure of energy. So if I'm still eating 1,500, but my expenditure drops to 750, that means I only burned an additional 750, which means it's going to be even more that more difficult to continually proceed at the weight trend that I want to be at. So let's go into that card. The weight trend here, you can see that it shows my average weight is 243.0, and it shows my difference of 14.1 pounds. Now, you heard earlier that I'm actually 17.6 pounds down. If you look at the graph, you will see that there is a thin line underneath it, and that's my actual scale weight. So you can see you can see the drops, you can see the plateaus, you can see the peaks when I start to go back up. This weight trend is giving me a guideline saying if I continually eat my calories that I'm eating, if I continue to maintain a regimen of the expenditure of energy through exercises I'm doing, this is the trend that my actual weight should be falling at. And as you know, I jumped on the carnivore diet, so I lost 10 pounds in the first 2 days, all water weight. But if you then look at that thin line and compare it to the trend line from the January 15th, if you look at that and go back up, you can pretty much see, although the trend is wavy all the way down, it's pretty consistent with that weight trend loss. So that weight trend is to kind of help you see that yes, you're on track, you're doing the right thing, and if you continue to do this, this is what you're going to be at. It may not match your exact scale weight, but it gives you a guide. It's kind of like the lines in the road when you're going down the street. You see the lines in the road, doesn't mean you have to stay in the left lane or you have to be in the right lane. You have the opportunity to choose, but that line is guiding you. Hey, this is, I'm at least going to keep you in the road. And depending on what it is, it can kind of keep you going the right way. And finally, the card to the all the way to the right, you will see then shows kind of what my decrease is based on the last 3 days, which is 2.6 pounds. Then by the 4 or 7 days, sorry, then by the 14-day model, etc., etc. And as I get into the 30 days and the 90 days and 120 days, etc., I'm going to be able to see where that trend line goes, and if it continues to fall at the same rate, or if maybe I start taking on more calories and I'm not burning as much, it may start to trend and level out. But based on that current thing, you can see that my current weight, based on the trend, this is not my actual weight, this is the trend, it's saying that my current weight should be at 236. I'm well under that. However, again, if you look at the trend line for my scale weight trend, I'm pretty consistently moving along that same path. You can see that it's suggesting my weekly weight change should be about 3.77 pounds, or 3 to 4 pounds. And then you can also see my energy deficit. Now, it's saying that I'm at 1,880 calories of deficit here. This is just the estimate based on how many calories lower than what I should be, or lower than what I'm intaking I should be eating. If I was at maintenance, and it's showing me how much of a deficit I'm staying in to continue to drop the weight. Now, the beauty. Scale weight. You can see that from the start of this, I was 250.1, and now I'm 232.5. 17.6 pounds down in 25 days. That's amazing. Yes, I'm sure a large part of it's because I'm massively obese, but the fact that I could do this in such a short period of time, still feel healthy, still feel energetic, and to be improving my body and my respiratory health, my heart health, it's, if for lack of a better term, it's a miracle. And it's a miracle that was self-inflicted. I just wanted to say that this is something each and every one of us can do, and it is possible. It's just going to take hard work, commitment, and consistency. So this scale weight is actually coming from my scale. However, I wanted to talk about that. The MacroFactor app connects to your health app. So anything that you can connect to your health app in iOS or whatever it's called in Android, it's going to be able to pull that data over as long as you share it, make it available, so that you can see in real time in one app rather than have to go to multiple apps what your actual data is. The next card here is my expenditure. So I kind of clearly talked about this earlier. Your expenditure is your calories in, and then whatever excess energy that you ate on top of it, or that you worked on top of what you ate. So you can see that the blue lines are my calories. So I was taking an average of I think 1,200 or 1,300 calories a day. There were some days that were really, really difficult. And I will say, I'm not sure if this is the app or if this is just the diet itself. Those people who maybe are on keto can speak to whether or not this is different or not. But with the carnivore diet, it is severely difficult to hit calorie goals. I will tell you that I can eat a pound of chicken and that's only 800 calories and I'm stuffed. Chicken does digest easier for me. I don't know why, but that's just what it is. Red meat seemed to sit in me like a tank, so getting that many calories a day is very, very difficult. Additionally, this expenditure line though that's above is all the calorie difference from what I actually ate. So this is all I worked out, and you can see there's a big gap. It's about half the amount of calories I take in is about how much I'm actually burning on most of those days, except for a few. Then if you go to my actual calorie targets, this is slightly different. The orange line here is actually where it expected me to hit my calories at, and the blue is where I actually hit my calories. Now, when it was 1,200 calories, 1,239 or whatever, 1,293, it was a little bit easier to hit that number of calories. However, as the app checks every week, it gave me a new, this is what you should be working out at. When it did that, it was very difficult to hit 1,500. As I said, carnivore diet makes it very, very difficult. There were a few days that you can clearly see early on where I was sick, and this last little gap close to the right, that was just, I couldn't eat. I ate as much as I could, and I just was not hungry. So it's difficult to hit these calories, but this is more of a guideline to try and keep you on the weight. It wants to make sure that you're not starving yourself, so your body doesn't start doing one of two things, where it eats at the muscle and eats away your fat at the same time, or that it doesn't start storing the fat that you're trying to get rid of because it thinks that it's in starvation mode and it needs to keep that for when it's needed. And if you're going over that, then you're just clearly lessening your deficit, which is going to make your diet take longer. And then lastly, I just want to show, hey, this is kind of my step counter. You can see my steps starting from January 6th to now. This is just a month capture. I was really low in the beginning. However, at about day 12, I was hitting 8 to 10K pretty consistently, and then you see some days where I went to 11 to 12. My goal is to stick around 10K and maybe slowly get into the 12K, but I don't want to continue going down that route. I don't want to use all my energy just in walking, because I don't want to get to a catabolic state. As I said, I don't want to eat or walk so much that my body requires so much energy in repairing that it's using more protein or more nutrients than my body is taking in, and then it starts to feed on the muscles that I'm working so hard to build. So that's that. And lastly, we have my actual pictures, the moment of truth. As I say, 25 days down. You can see in the top photos, this is when I actually started my first day photos, and I posted these so you guys could see. You see from the frontal view, I'm still quite fat. I'm still quite large. However, if you were to look at my chest, you can see much more defined, like curvature, and where my chest previously went kind of round and down, I'm now actually getting more of a block, like like my lower chest is actually defining, which is a good thing. You'll also see in the difference of the January to the February 4th is that I have this little thin strip, and I'm gonna call them mini abs at the top, that I have an area where fat has removed itself, and I have two little abs up top. They're like little partial abs at top, and that's just lucky that that's where the fat removed from my body. And you can't really see it in the photo, but fat has reduced from one side of my stomach really, really aggressively, so I'm not as rounded. Now, if we move to the middle, it's probably a little bit more obvious, and you can really see my weight loss difference. If you were to compare the two photos, you can see how my belly is much more round and really heavy at the top, whereas now it's much more sunk in. You can see that it's actually tight. You can see that where my belly previously was hanging, it's still over, but it's no longer just hanging. It's actually got like a lift to it, like it's pulling itself up and holding itself there. You'll also notice that my legs have gotten much thinner, and that's a good thing for me. In the back photos, you can't really notice much as difference unless you actually look at my hamstrings and my calves. You can see that it seems like most of the fat that I've lost, at least as of now, seems to be more in my hamstring area. And that's good. It doesn't matter where the fat comes from. I can't target it, so just getting it off of me is most important here. You'll probably also notice that I feel a little bit more positive in my body. I don't feel as ashamed as I did before. I don't feel as embarrassed to show off. Yeah, this is going to be a process. I'm going to be ugly and fat for a long time, but it doesn't mean that I have to stay that way. So I'm doing everything I can to improve that. And thank you all for watching. Have a fantastic day, and peace.